Sit down.
Hey, Stanley.
Stanley.
Are you okay?
Oh my God.
At ease.
Oh my God.
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
Michael Scott didn't just make you laugh for 9 seasons. He became one of the most beloved characters in television history, and nearly didn't exist at all. Today we're diving into 19 secrets about The Office. From casting disasters that almost killed the show before it started, to improvised moments that became iconic, to the real-world crisis that saved it from cancellation twice. Welcome to Sitcom Secrets, where every rewatch reveals something new. Let's get into it. Fact number 19. The 40-year-old virgin saved The Office twice.
Are you a virgin?
Oh, you are hilarious. This is good.
You're a virgin.
In the summer of 2005, Steve Carell starred in The 40-Year-Old Virgin. The movie was a massive hit, made $177 million worldwide, and turned Carell into a bankable movie star overnight. That success saved The Office in 2 ways. First, it convinced NBC to renew the show for season 2, despite terrible ratings, because now they had a movie star, not just a sitcom actor. Second, it gave Greg Daniels the creative leverage to completely overhaul Michael Scott's character. In season 1, Michael was mean-spirited, cruel, and hard to watch. Carell's character in The 40-Year-Old Virgin was vulnerable, sweet, and desperate to be loved. Daniels told the writers to rewrite Michael using that energy. Suddenly, Michael Scott wasn't a villain. He was a lonely man trying too hard. The transformation saved the show's soul. One movie didn't just save The Office from cancellation. It taught the show who Michael Scott really was. Fact number 18. Jenna Fischer still wears Pam's engagement ring.
Have I not proposed to you yet?
I don't know.
Oh,
No.
well, that's coming.
When Jim Halpert proposed to Pam Beesly with a ring cut from his mother's heirloom, the production team bought a real engagement ring for the prop. It cost $5,000, deliberately modest, because Jim Halpert wasn't rich. And the ring needed to feel real. After the show ended, Jenna Fischer asked if she could keep it. NBC said yes. She's worn it to The Office cast reunions, fan conventions, and public appearances ever since. Fisher has said the ring reminds her of the years she spent becoming Pam Beesly, falling in love with Jim Halpert, and building something that felt more real than fiction. She's married to someone else in real life. But the ring stays on her finger when she talks about the show. It's not method acting anymore. It's memory. Sometimes the props we carry are the only proof that the best parts of our lives actually happened. Fact number 17. Bob Odenkirk finally got his Office cameo.
Can you not work on this month's? Okay, Nana?
In season 9, Bob Odenkirk appeared as a guest star, playing a character named Mark, the manager of a rival paper company. Mark is everything Michael Scott pretended to be. Confident, charismatic, effortlessly funny, loved by his employees. He's also deeply irritating. Odenkirk played him as a Michael Scott clone, but polished, self-aware, and just arrogant enough to make you uncomfortable. It was a perfect piece of metacasting. The man who was almost Michael Scott finally got to play the character Greg Daniels thought he'd be too good at. And by making him insufferable, the show reminded everyone why Steve Carell's version worked. Michael Scott was never supposed to be competent. He was supposed to be broken, desperate, and trying. Odenkirk's Mark is what Michael would be if he'd actually been good at his job. And it's exactly why that version would have killed the show. Fact number 16. Writers seriously considered Jim and Pam not ending up together.
I was just, I'm in love with you.
What?
I'm really sorry if that's weird for you to hear, but I needed you to...
In the writer's room during season 3, Greg Daniels and the team had a serious debate. What if Jim Halpert and Pam Beesly don't end up together? Some writers argued that dragging out the will they won't they was killing the show's momentum. Others argued that putting them together too soon would remove all tension. But a third group floated something darker. What if Jim and Pam are actually wrong for each other? What if Roy Anderson wins Pam back? What if Jim Halpert meets someone better in Stamford? What if the whole arc is about two people who think they're soulmates but end up leading each other to their actual true loves? Daniels seriously considered it. The debate lasted weeks. Ultimately, he decided that Jim Halpert and Pam Beesly's love story was the emotional spine of the show, and breaking that spine would break the audience's trust. But it was closer than fans realize. Sometimes the happy ending almost doesn't happen. Fact number 15. The cast had to attend sexual harassment training.
All you need are honesty, empathy, respect, and open-mindedness.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's not all it takes to be a hero.
Oh, great. Well, what is a hero to you?
A hero kills people. People that wish him harm.
Every year, NBC required the cast and crew of The Office to attend mandatory sexual harassment training. This is standard for all network productions. But by season 4, NBC's own training videos started using clips from the Diversity Day episode as examples of what not to do in the workplace. The cast would sit in a conference room, watch Michael Scott sexually harass his employees on screen, and then discuss why it was inappropriate. Jenna Fischer later said it was the most surreal professional experience of her life, being forced to watch herself participate in fictional misconduct as part of real-world compliance training. The episode that got them into the training video was the same episode that almost got the show canceled for being too offensive. Sometimes your worst behavior becomes your greatest teaching tool. Fact number 14. Creed plays a fictionalized version of himself.
Excuse me. What is wrong with this woman? She's asking about stuff that's nobody's business. What do I do?
Creed Bratton isn't just the character's name. It's also the actor's stage name. His real name is William Charles Schneider. In the 1960s, he was the guitarist for the Grassroots, a band that had multiple top 10 hits. When The Office hired him, the writers discovered his rock and roll past and decided to fold it into the character. The fictional Creed Bratton is a former member of the Grassroots. He faked his own death. He's committed multiple crimes. He's possibly a cult leader. None of that is real, except the band part. The real Creed Bratton left the Grassroots in 1969, changed his name legally to his stage name, and spent decades as a working actor before landing on The Office. Now he plays a man with his name, his band, and a completely fabricated criminal history. That's not method acting. That's identity theft from yourself. Fact number 13. Creed Bratton accidentally became a speaking character. Creed Bratton was hired as a background extra. His job was to sit at a desk, look busy, and never speak. Then one day, during a scene in season 2, an assistant director mistakenly told Creed Bratton to walk over and talk to Phyllis Vance. Creed didn't question it. He just did it. By the time the producers realized what had happened, Creed Bratton had already delivered his line. And under union rules, once a background actor speaks, they're owed speaking wages. The producers watched the footage. Creed's delivery was bizarre, deadpan, and weirdly unsettling. They loved it. So they kept writing him lines. Then they kept making those lines weirder. By season 3, Creed Bratton had become one of the show's most reliably strange characters. All because someone gave him the wrong direction. Sometimes mistakes become legends. Fact number 12. Pam and Jim's airport goodbye was completely real. In Steve Carell's final episode as a series regular, Goodbye, Michael, there's a scene where Pam Beesly rushes to the airport to say goodbye to Michael Scott before he leaves for Colorado. The scene is almost entirely unscripted. Greg Daniels told Jenna Fischer to just say whatever she wanted to say. Not to Michael Scott, but to Steve Carell. Fisher didn't plan it. She didn't rehearse. She just walked up to Carell at the airport set and started talking. What she said we'll never know. The audio was intentionally left out so the moment would remain private. But the tears were real. The hug was real. And when Carell walked away, Fisher broke down because she wasn't acting anymore. She was saying goodbye to someone who'd changed her life. The crew kept the cameras rolling. Sometimes the most powerful performances aren't performances at all. Fact number 11. The proposal scene almost had no dialogue. Greg Daniels debated for weeks whether Jim Halpert and Pam Beesly would still be wearing their microphones during the gas station proposal. The whole premise of The Office is that a documentary crew is filming everything. But in that moment, private, intimate, unplanned, would they really still be mic'd up? Daniels considered shooting it with no dialogue at all. Just visuals and rain. John Krasinski and Jenna Fischer disagreed. They argued that Jim Halpert and Pam Beesly would still be wearing mics because they'd been wearing them for years. It was part of their lives now. The documentary was always there, and the words mattered. So they rehearsed the dialogue, and then they said the lines in every single take, even though Daniels hadn't decided yet whether he'd use them. When he watched the footage, He realized the scene didn't work without the words. "I can't wait" isn't just a line, it's a promise. Sometimes silence isn't always golden. Fact number 10. Michael's kiss with Oscar was 100% improvised. In the episode Gay Witch Hunt, Michael Scott kisses Oscar Martinez to prove he's comfortable with Oscar being gay. That kiss was never in the script. Steve Carell improvised it. The writers had scripted Michael hugging Oscar awkwardly. But during the take, Carell kept leaning closer and closer. Oscar Nunes, who plays Oscar, realized what was about to happen and just went with it. The crew off camera was freaking out. You can hear muffled laughter in the background if you listen closely. They only got one take because Nunes and Carell were both laughing too hard to do it again. Greg Daniels kept it in the final cut because it was the most Michael Scott thing imaginable. A gesture meant to show tolerance that's actually wildly inappropriate. Sometimes the funniest moments are the ones nobody planned. Fact number 9. Jim and Pam's first kiss was Krasinski's first kiss ever.
Listen, Jim.
When Jim Halpert kissed Pam Beesly at the end of Casino Night, John Krasinski had limited professional acting experience, and it was one of his first major on-screen romantic scenes. He was nervous, and Jenna Fischer knew it. Before they shot the scene, she pulled him aside and reassured him that they'd rehearse it, make it comfortable, and take as many takes as needed. They filmed it in one take. Krasinski later said the nerves actually helped. Jim Halpert was supposed to be terrified. The kiss was supposed to feel like a leap off a cliff. Sometimes your inexperience is exactly the experience the scene needs. Fact number 8. Jim's proposal cost more than any other scene. The proposal scene at the rest stop in Niagara is a brief but pivotal moment. The production used rain machines and a carefully constructed set to create the cinematic downpour, making the scene feel intimate and fully earned. Greg Daniels knew this was the emotional climax of the entire series. If Jim Halpert and Pam Beesly's proposal didn't feel cinematic, intimate, and completely earned, the whole show could collapse under its own hype. Sometimes the smallest moments demand the biggest investment. Fact number 7. iTunes literally saved the show from cancellation. Season 1 of The Office struggled in the ratings. It premiered to 11 million viewers, then dropped by the finale, leaving NBC executives uncertain about its future. After the season, digital downloads and online viewership showed that the show had a strong and growing fan base that traditional Nielsen ratings hadn't fully captured. Recognizing this audience helped convince NBC to renew the show. Sometimes survival is about finding the people who've been watching you all along. Fact number 6. John Krasinski wore a wig for 6 episodes. In 2007, John Krasinski filmed a movie called Leatherheads with George Clooney. The film required a 1920s-style short haircut. The problem: The Office was in the middle of shooting season 3, and Jim Halpert's shaggy hair was part of the character's identity. Krasinski cut his hair for the movie, and the production took steps to maintain continuity, so Jim Halpert's hairstyle remained consistent on screen. Sometimes authenticity requires careful planning behind the scenes. Before we get to fact number 5, and trust me, this one's the most surprising yet, hit like and subscribe so you never miss these. Alright, let's get into it. Fact number 5. The set was always freezing cold.
You promise these are confidential?
100%.
Did you just mark on that?
I don't think so, no.
You made a P.
Wrong.
If you ever wondered why the cast of The Office always looked slightly uncomfortable, here's why. The Dunder Mifflin set was kept cooler than usual to help prevent Steve Carell from sweating under the hot filming lights. Cast members wore layers under their costumes, stuffed hand warmers into pockets, and shivered through takes. Jenna Fischer once joked that Pam's cardigans weren't a character choice. They were survival gear. But no one complained. If freezing for 9 years meant Steve Carell could give the performance of a lifetime, without sweating through every scene, it was worth it. That's not method acting. That's method survival. Fact number 4. Phyllis Smith was never officially offered her role.
Are there any local companies that rent anti-gravity machines?
Anti-gravity machines?
That's right, yeah.
What do they do exactly?
Phyllis Smith didn't audition for The Office. She wasn't an actress. She was a casting associate. working in the room while other people auditioned. Her job was to read lines opposite the actors, so the producers could see how they performed. After weeks of hearing her voice, Greg Daniels and the writing team realized something. Phyllis had perfect comedic timing, a naturally warm presence, and a voice that made even mundane lines feel real. So they created a character for her. The character was named Phyllis, and she was gradually written into scripts. Sometimes the best performances come from people who never knew they were performing. Fact number 3. John Krasinski almost talked himself out of Jim.
Nah, well.
Carpool?
John Krasinski walked into his audition for Jim Halpert, convinced he was about to bomb. He'd never done a mockumentary-style show before, didn't understand the rhythm, and felt so awkward during his reading that he apologized to the casting directors afterward. He left certain he'd never hear from them again. What he didn't know was that his awkwardness was exactly what they wanted. Jim Halpert was supposed to feel like a real person caught on camera, not a polished sitcom character. A few weeks later, John Krasinski visited Scranton to get a feel for the city. Footage of Scranton would later appear in the opening credits of the show. That's not confidence, that's hope. Fact number 2. Steve Carell was trapped by another NBC show.
You're scared of pigeons. Tom's scared of pigeons. What a weirdo. Come on, let's let him have it.
Steve Carell auditioned for Michael Scott while he was under contract for a sitcom called Come to Papa. When Come to Papa premiered in March 2004, it was canceled after just 4 episodes. This made Steve Carell available, and he was then cast as Michael Scott. If Come to Papa had been even slightly successful, The Office as we know it might never have happened. Sometimes career setbacks lead to career-defining opportunities. Fact number 1. Bob Odenkirk was the original Michael Scott. Here's one that stops most fans cold. Before Steve Carell ever put on that world's best boss mug, Bob Odenkirk auditioned for the role of Michael Scott and was seriously considered. But Greg Daniels had serious concerns. Odenkirk's comedy was darker, sharper, more cynical, perfect for what he'd later do as Saul Goodman, but wrong for a character who needed to be lovable even when he was unbearable. Daniels knew Michael Scott had to make you cringe and care at the same time. Odenkirk could make you cringe brilliantly, but the caring part? That was Steve Carell's magic. Sometimes the person who's almost perfect is exactly the wrong choice. The Office didn't just survive. It became one of the most rewatched, most quoted, most beloved comedies in television history. And it almost didn't make it past 6 episodes. That's not luck. That's what happens when the right people fight for something fragile long enough for the world to catch up. If you made it this far without turning off the video, you've officially earned your spot in the club. Hit that subscribe button if you want more secrets like these. Drop a comment and tell us which fact surprised you most. Or let us know which show or movie we should cover next. Until next time, this is Sitcom Secrets, where every rewatch reveals something new.